My name is Max Young. I'm a Camunda Champion, a certified Camunda Architect, and a principal with Capital BPM, a platinum partner with Camunda, and the 2024 Partner of the Year for the Americas. Today, I want to talk about one of our tools, Exodus. Exodus offers a fixed cost, fixed risk migration tool that we use to migrate Camunda 7 to Camunda 8 projects. I want to show you what it does and how it works a little bit. So you start out with Exodus it's basically a web app. You come in and you choose the migration that you want to do. It does a lot of different migrations, including Pega and Appian, but today I'm just going to talk about going from Camunda 7 to Camunda 8. So you choose the Camunda version that you want here, and then you choose the source. So whether that source is a Git repository or a zip file, however you have organized your stuff. It'll come in, and once you do that, you'll choose what kind of conversion you want to do. I just want to do BPMNs, DMNs, or I want to do the source code, or I want to do all of those things. I choose the type of analysis that I want. I enter the cluster ID and the secrets and all the things that I need for the Camunda 8 instance that I actually am going to be migrating to. And then from there, it'll actually start showing me, hey, this is the things that were there before, and this is what I'm actually going to be migrating to. So for example, you can see, well, your Camunda 7 project had this POM file, but I'm actually going to be creating this other POM file. Or this was your BPMN, and I'm translating that BPMN to this other BPMN. On top of that, you can actually see here that, hey, when you're looking at the actual source code, it takes into account all the different versions and the details of how your application project is starting and organized. So what you should take away from this is that this is a non-trivial conversion. It looks deep into the application. So you can see here what we're migrating to. You can actually see here, for example, that with version 7 of Camunda, it uses DMN version 1.1, but in version 8.5 plus, it uses 1.3. So we actually convert your DMNs. So once they're over into your 8 environment, you can actually edit them. And then you can also see that the tool allows you to kind of see a preview of everything that's being changed, in addition to being able to see the DMNs, the DRDs, and you can do a comparison. You'll notice, for example, that it has a very detailed report of everything that you can see, whether it's a task, a review, a warning, an incident, things that potentially go wrong during a migration. You can click on individual activities and see the details there, or you can click on the entire space and see everything for all of the migration issues that have to be solved in order to go from C7 over to C8. Once you've got that in place, what it'll do is it will actually come in and give you this report, so you can actually be very explicit about what it is that's being changed. And then from there, it'll actually take that information and make it available to you to an Excel export, so you can look at it in depth and really make sure that it makes sense. It's going to tell you, for example, that, hey, this was the name of your delegate. This is going to be the name of your job worker. Your delegate was implicitly using, execution get variable to read these things. So I'm creating these variables on the process, and I'm auto mapping them to be the right type from the process instance variable. So your job worker signature is right, and you're actually able to see all of that, right? So again, just to be very explicit about this, it will actually examine your delegate code. It will figure out what the inputs and the outputs to it are, and then it'll create corresponding workers. And it'll modify your BPMNs so that it's passing exactly those inputs into the job worker, so that it all fits together and it works. So you can actually see here, for example, right now you're actually looking at a delegate, right? And then you change it over to a job worker. And it knows, for example, what the actual inputs and the outputs should be. So this is non-trivial, right? And the point of this is to get you started. Now, Exodus is not a magic bullet. It doesn't solve all your problems, but what it does do is it does a lot of the deep foundational sort of tedious work, so that the things that you have to do can become a little bit more nuanced. For example, it doesn't do things like if you have a lot of, API dependencies in your delegate that you were using under the hood features of Camunda 7, it doesn't do that. It'll just say, hey, I couldn't translate these things. And, it'll give you a stub, but you have to fill in that logic by yourself. If you have really complicated Groovy code or Joule code or something that are in a script, obviously that's not supported in Camunda 8 because we use field expressions there. So it does its best to translate, but if it's not confident in the translation, it'll say, hey, I only have, this much confidence in this particular translation, or I have no confidence, and you have to go and highlight this and do it yourself. It will intelligently take pre-existing connectors in C7 and change those to the corresponding connectors in C8. So for example, here you can see an HTTP connector that's being converted from the C7 version to the C8 version. And even here, you can actually see that it's intelligently like bringing back the information. In C7, if you were doing this, for example, you get a string that happened to be JSON, and you might use let JSON.stringify to parse it. That is automatically handled. And you can actually see here that I've built and deployed this into C8. I started it, and you can actually see that it just like this, it actually is executing in your C8 environment. So we just took, in the matter of time that I've been speaking, from zero, we took a C7 project, we converted all of the delegates, all of the script, all of the inputs and the outputs. We created the corresponding BPMN and the corresponding DMN. We deployed it. We got the job workers up. We got those running. And it actually is providing a consistent functionality. Again, it's not a magic bullet. It won't solve every problem, but it does a lot to solve the problems that can be solved. And then Capital BPM guarantees the rest.